The question at hand is whether we're too strict about sexual topics today. Do we let ourselves explore what we want? And should we think about why we have these desires and what they lead to? Let's look at a cool comparison. Take a regular house cat. They've got more control over their sexual urges than many of us. Cats only get interested in mating for about 2 weeks every year. And, unlike humans, cats don't really show much interest in self-pleasure. When animals do show weird sexual behaviors, it's usually when they're not living in the wild. Compared to them, we humans seem to have less control. Going back in time, our ancestors seem to have a better handle on this too. For instance, Buddha talked about celibacy as a middle ground. Back then, people either indulged in every pleasure or denied themselves all joys. For many wise people long ago, not engaging in sexual activity was totally normal. But just to be clear, choosing not to have sex isn't about making yourself suffer or ignoring the natural need to have kids. It's about finding a balance, like Buddha's middle way. These days, telling someone to be chaste is like telling a kid to not eat candy. But I think we can still have a good talk about being more aware of our desires. As you try to control yourself, you'll hear lots of people disagreeing or getting upset. They might look for any reason to give up. It's important to remember that what you want right now and what truly makes you happy in the long run aren't always the same. Life without self-control can become pretty empty. History shows us that people who really succeed keep their big goals in mind and don't get sidetracked by short-term fun. In our journey towards self-discipline, it's crucial to recognize the difference between suppression and mastery of our desires. Suppressing them can lead to frustration and unhappiness. However, mastering them means understanding and channeling them in a way that enriches our lives and relationships. It's not about denying ourselves pleasure, but about finding deeper, more fulfilling experiences that align with our values and goals. Moreover, embracing this path of self-control in our sexual lives can lead to greater emotional and psychological well-being. It encourages us to form connections based on mutual respect, deep understanding, and genuine affection, rather than fleeting physical attraction. This approach can transform our relationships, making them more meaningful and enduring. In a world where instant gratification is often the norm, choosing a path of mindful self-discipline can be a powerful statement of our commitment to personal growth and meaningful connections. In a truly advanced society, what some might call holding back our less desirable urges is actually a way of turning basic wants into smart, thoughtful actions. An example for a smart action is like subscribing to our channel. So just hit the subscribe button. Thanks. Think about it. We make things like houses, clothes, and books that aren't found in nature, but we also teach ourselves to use these things properly. We use medicine to heal, not just to feel good. We have intimate relationships to grow our families, not just for fun. And when we play games, we do it to learn, not just for the thrill of taking risks. In our world, the idea of holding back, which is often confused with completely stopping, is seen as a bad thing. But if we really look at the good it does, we can start to see it as something helpful. In my own life, I've found that by being disciplined, I've started to enjoy life more, in a deeper and more satisfying way. Have you ever thought about why people often look for happiness in things they can see, hear, or touch? When we really get into spiritual teachings and living a disciplined spiritual life, we start to understand something amazing. The soul, which is like a tiny piece of the divine, is naturally in a state of pure joy. This joy is different from regular happiness or sadness. It's a kind of happiness that doesn't change. It's a freedom and existence all on its own, and it's what the soul is really like. Every living thing, whether it's a person or an animal, has this inner source of joy, contentment, and completeness. The soul is happy on its own, without needing anything from outside. It lives in this high state without needing anything to keep it there or to keep it from falling. Great spiritual teachers tell us that when the soul comes into the physical world and gets wrapped up in a body, it starts to get covered by layers of ignorance, called Maya or avidya. These layers block the soul's natural light and nobility, like clouds hiding the sun. As this happens, humans, who are really beings of joy because they are souls, start to feel less of this natural joy. So they start looking for things that make them happy, trying to fill the gap they feel. It's like a traveler in the desert who keeps looking for a mirage of water, even though it's just an illusion. The pleasure we get from our senses isn't real happiness. It's just a quick thrill that usually ends up hurting us. After many lifetimes of looking for happiness through our senses, we start to think that this is the best kind of happiness. But slowly, we forget about the true joy that comes from our souls. This is where many of us find ourselves, lost in this misunderstanding. In this quest for joy, we often overlook the simplest and most profound pleasures that life has to offer. The laughter of a child, the beauty of a sunset, or the peacefulness of a quiet moment alone. These experiences, though seemingly mundane, can provide a deep sense of fulfillment and happiness that transcends the fleeting excitement of sensory pleasures. It is in these moments that we can reconnect with our inner selves and experience a glimpse of the soul's innate bliss. Furthermore, this journey towards rediscovering our soulful joy is not a solitary endeavor. It is enriched and supported by the connections we forge with others. In relationships grounded in mutual respect, empathy, and genuine care, we find a reflection of our own inner light. These connections, whether with family, friends, or even strangers, act as mirrors that help us see and appreciate our true selves. Ultimately, the path to lasting happiness and fulfillment lies in embracing the simplicity of life, nurturing our relationships, and cultivating a deep sense of gratitude for the everyday wonders that surround us. By aligning our pursuits with our soul's natural state of bliss, we not only enrich our own lives, but also contribute to a more harmonious and compassionate world. Let us now imagine living a life where you're like a captain of a ship, steering through a huge sea of confusion, heading towards real happiness and peace. By sticking to a life of celibacy with all your heart, you can slowly break free from Maya, the illusion that's been holding you back. As you get better at this and really understand yourself, realizing you're more than just your body, you find happiness that doesn't need anything else. No need for constant socializing, wild parties, or just talking to fill the silence. You start to see that the fun stuff outside is pretty shallow compared to the amazing things you find inside yourself and in your spiritual connection. When you first start on this path of celibacy and discipline, giving up on physical pleasures, it's normal to have doubts. Our minds are used to thinking the easy, fun stuff is what makes life good. Sometimes, to stay on track, you've got to be really strong and determined. It's like being an Olympic runner going for gold. What do? They drop all the distractions, the fun stuff, the useless stuff, and put everything into tough, disciplined training. Their whole heart and mind are focused on getting ready for the big race. In the same way, living a celibate life needs serious and honest effort, especially at first when it seems super hard. But with time, your true commitment and a little help from above make things easier. As time goes by, with real effort and some spiritual help, the journey gets easier. After about a year of true celibacy, without slipping up, something amazing happens. You start to really love and want this unbroken peace and happiness that starts to grow inside you. You don't miss your old life anymore. In fact, the thought of going back to that confused state is scary. And if you ever do think about old desires, you feel uncomfortable, turned off, and even guilty. All your energy goes into getting rid of these thoughts. Your main goal is to free yourself from them and live a life of purity in your thoughts, words, and actions. The beauty of this path is that it opens doors to deeper insights about life and our purpose in it. As we shed our dependence on physical pleasures, we begin to appreciate the richness of life's simple joys. We start noticing the beauty in nature, the depth in genuine human connections, and the peace in quiet moments of reflection. Our senses, no longer dulled by constant overstimulation, become more attuned to the world around us. This journey brings a sense of empowerment. We realize that our happiness is not dictated by external factors, but is a choice we make every day. This empowerment is liberating. It allows us to live with intention, choosing actions that align with our deepest values and aspirations. As we continue on this path, we become a beacon of inspiration and strength for others, showing that a life of discipline and self-control is not only possible, but deeply fulfilling.